So, John, today's the big day, huh? Your first extended visit to your parents' home.
Yes, and I'm nervous because of my father.
You mustn't be, John. I know he's proud of your brother Scott because he went into the family business, but he loves you too.
No, that's not it.
Well, what then?
We can't talk here. The walls have ears. Okay, let's go.
Now, what did you want to tell me?
Do you remember John Lennon's assassination?
Of course.
Did you know I was at the memorial service in Central Park a few days later?
No.
I love John Lennon, although I had more in common with Mark David Chapman.
Like what?
We were both patsies. In 1975, Chapman found Jesus and devoted his life to working for the YMCA, which was prime recruiting ground for CIA stations in Latin America.
Was he recruited?
We don't know. His employment records are missing. We do know he went to work for them in Beirut just when civil war broke out in Lebanon. And when he came back, he went to work with Vietnamese refugees and CIA assets at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, at a place run by World Vision, an evangelical charity which runs refugee camps and helps the CIA. Its Honduran camps were used to recruit the Salvadoran death squads. Someone said they're just an elaborate cover-up for the recruitment, training, and placement of assassins worldwide.
They made it sound like he was just some lone nut.
Well, it's better that way. That's why the CIA set up MK Ultra, its mind control operation, to create a programmed killer who appears to be a lone nut, at Castle Memorial Hospital in Hawaii.
Didn't Chapman live in Hawaii?
Correct. He also had a nervous breakdown while there. Guess where he was treated?
Castle Memorial Hospital?
Correct again. A New York City homicide detective who saw Chapman immediately after the murder said, "It's possible Mark could have been used by somebody. I studied him the night of the murder. He looked as if he could have been programmed."
What made him think that?
Well, the doorman at the Dakota said after the shooting he screamed,
"Leave! Get out of here! Do you know what you've done?"
I've shot John Lennon.
Then, he said, Chapman threw down his gun, took off his coat, folded it at his feet, and began to read Catcher in the Rye.
Why would the doorman tell him to leave? That makes no sense.
Unless the doorman was a shooter and planted the gun. And why didn't Chapman leave? There was a subway station right there. Maybe because innocent people don't run away? Even the cops didn't believe at first that Chapman was the shooter.
I tell you, that's him!
That guy reading the book? Couldn't be. He's too straight.
Who was this doorman?
Jose Joaquin Sanjinas Perdomo. He was an anti-Castro Cuban and CIA asset who worked side by side with Watergate burglar Frank Sturgis. Sturgis appears in a photo taken in Mexico City of a CIA death squad that also included Porter Goss, later head of the CIA under W. Perdomo fought in the Bay of Pigs invasion, in which George H.W. Bush was also involved. Bush was a CIA agent who specialized in black ops, mind control, and assassination. And he was friends and business associates with my father.
There's 1 degree of separation between all these people.
Perdomo was in a much better position than Chapman to fire the shots that killed Lennon. And since there was no investigation, we don't even know what gun the bullets came from. And he spoke to Chapman before the shooting, too.
About what?
The Bay of Pigs, Cuban-American politics. Oh, and one other thing. Kill John Lennon.
But who would have wanted to kill John Lennon?
Think about what was happening in December 1980. Lennon had just released his first album after 5 years of retirement. In El Salvador, 4 American churchwomen had been murdered by the military. A month earlier, Ronald Reagan had defeated Jimmy Carter in the general elections after besting George H.W. Bush in the primaries. The same George H.W. Bush who became his running mate. The same George H.W. Bush whom Jimmy Carter had fired as CIA director. Of course, Bush still had plenty of friends over at the company. And by the way, Reagan's Secretary of Defense designate was Dick Cheney.
This thing in El Salvador, what a mess, Dick. Could screw up all our plans down there in that whole Central American area. The money we get from Iran for selling them arms in exchange for our hostages is supposed to go to the Contra rebels down there. If this gets out...
I know, that's why I'm concerned about John Lennon's comeback. Remember what he did during Vietnam? He could galvanize dissent against all our dirty little wars. Not just in Central America, but in Afghanistan, Iraq, Eastern Europe.
Can't we just deport him?
They tried that in '75. And now he's becoming a U.S. citizen. It'll be impossible to get rid of him.
I say we kill the son of a bitch.
Shall I call our friend at World Vision?
No, I'll call him. He's an old business associate of mine and he owes me a favor. Besides, there's another matter I want to talk to him about.
Can you guess who was the head of World Vision?
No, I have no idea.
My father. John, Mother said to tell you dinner will be ready in half an hour. Dad, this is Jody Foster. Nice to meet you, Miss Foster. Hope you brought your appetite.
Holy Mother of God. Your father was the head of World Vision?
Jesus, George. He's my son.
Don't worry. He ain't going to jail. I know a judge. You told me yourself he's not quite right in the head. We'll get him the help he needs. There were a lot of things to be considered here. Check, please.
So you see, Jody, in a way, I did go into the family business. I just want to say goodbye to the old year, which was nothing. Total misery. Total death. John Lennon is dead. The world is over. Forget it.